Hi everybody, it's Joe Cioffi here on this Friday night, coming up on 6 o'clock Eastern Time on April the 20th, 2018, and we have got a very quiet weekend ahead of us for the most part. Weather conditions across the United States are kind of snoozing as they are also in Europe, so I guess it's pretty good. I'm going to take some time off over the next 4 days or so. I'll probably jump on over the weekend, and even while I'm away, I'll live stream from where I'm going to be fishing with my buddies up on the Farmington River in northern Connecticut. And the weather's going to be great this weekend. It was a beautiful day today, even though temperatures here in my neck of the woods struggled once again, not getting out of the low 50s. And by the way, I just want to mention the fact that I did just, confirming my suspicions, I went back and looked really quick, and we had a streak of 23 out of 24 months of above average temperatures, something along those lines, and that came to an end. We have actually had 5 of the last 6 months, starting with November of last year, at least as far as New York City records are concerned. 5 out of the last 6 months have been below average, with just February being above average. So very interesting turn of events suddenly after being sort of unrelentingly warm. We have gone a bit the other way, and of course with respect to April right now running almost 4.5 degrees below average in New York City, it is ranking this April pretty close to the top 10 coldest, and it also looks like temperatures are going to be below average right through the end of the month and into the first day or so of May. So we will probably finish close to be somewhere, I'm going to just guess, between 4 and 5 degrees below average, and we might even crack the top 10 coldest for the month of April. So let's real quick check out what's happening weather-wise. And it's, as I said, it's very quiet. We don't have any severe weather threats. There isn't too much happening on the radar. The only place where there's some wintry weather going on from the standpoint of snow is in the mountains of Colorado, and in most of the forecasts that I looked at, it was basically above 8,000 or 9,000 feet, but we do have a little peppering of winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories from northernmost New Mexico and across central Colorado from south to north. And we have a small area of the southwest Texas and southern New Mexico, where red flag warnings are up for potential critical risk for fires. And the other issue in the east is the cold and the growing season. So we've got freeze warnings and freeze watches up for southeastern Pennsylvania, down into northwestern Virginia, parts of West Virginia, and eastern Kentucky, the panhandle of Virginia, and northeasternmost Tennessee. Other than that, it really is a quiet weather pattern overall. We have a weather system that is moving its way through the Rockies and into the Central Plains with some rain and snow, and you can see it here. There's actually even some rain and thunderstorms in eastern New Mexico moving into West Texas, and that is gradually going to drop southeastward and then across the southern states, across the Gulf states over the weekend and into early next week. So there'll be some minor severe weather threats, quote unquote minor, across the Gulf states over the next 3 days. But there's not too much happening other than some showers moving into the Pacific Northwest and some snow showers up into Maine. The rest of the eastern half of the United States looks very quiet and is setting up for a beautiful weekend. We actually haven't had a streak of sunny days around here for a long time. I can't remember the last time that we've strung together two nice days in a row. Certainly since the month of March began, we've had very few of them. Now looks like we're going to put today, the weekend, Monday, and possibly a good chunk of Tuesday may not turn out too badly. So we'll bring up the surface map here on the GFS model, and we can take a look at what's happening. We've got this big sprawling high in the east. The high is going to take 3 or 4 days to get out of the way. The air is coming down from southeastern Canada, so it is on the cool side, but at least the daytime highs will start to climb a little bit and make it into the 60s, which is a lot better than today, where I didn't even get out of the low 50s. There's a system moving across the south. You can see the model does generate some heavier rains here, so again, small area risk of severe weather for Saturday night, perhaps into East Texas, and then on Sunday we'll move it into Mississippi and into Alabama, and eventually into Georgia and South Carolina. Now, Tuesday night into Wednesday, that low starts to lift up the East Coast as energy drops down from the northern part of the jet stream, and I'll show you that in a second. But you can see here, this is at 2 a.m. Wednesday morning, and the rain is just moving into southeastern Pennsylvania and over the Delmarva Peninsula in Virginia, so probably will move into my neck of the woods sometime on Wednesday. Meanwhile, out in the west, we'll back it up. And there's the system right now with the rain and snow that we talked about, but that all disappears. And as far as the west coast is concerned, looks like the weather is going to be fairly tranquil going forward. I'll go back one run so we can go out a little bit further on the model. And there's going to be another system that eventually comes in early next week that moves across the northern plain. So that is the one that kind of gets hooked up with this system from the south, and that lifts up. It doesn't really develop very much. The two energy streams stay separate, but they also have their own identity. So when the second upper air feature drops down, it's likely to cause some showers here late next week. And then we start to see something coming down into Texas as another front with a push of some fairly cool air, cold air actually, going into the last weekend of April. Was looking at some of the temperature anomalies, and we're talking 15 degrees below average here, with another big high coming down from Canada. So certainly the month seems to want to go out in grand style here as far as the temperatures are concerned. I can bring up the temperature anomalies here, and you can watch them in play. This is actually for Monday, April 30th at 2 a.m. The temperature anomalies well below average, but I'll just run them back from the beginning. This is today's. This was actually for this afternoon. Then we'll go to 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday, still below average, but a little bit less. You can see how it stretches back into the Rockies, a little bit of warmer air up along the Canadian border, and a little bit of cooler air in the Pacific Northwest. Kind of identifies the sort of split flow that we have in the jet stream. Here's Sunday, where we moderate a bit. And then come Monday afternoon, showing actually above average temperatures at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So that'll be nice. I'll be out fishing on the Farmington River at that time. So when we look at the temperatures, certainly 60s pushing all the way up into central New England and in through upstate New York. So we're kind of liking that. And coming back to those anomalies. So Tuesday, as we start to cloud up, it's warmer than normal up in northern interior New England and upstate New York, but closer to normal as you go south, and then below normal where there's clouds and rain in the mid-Atlantic states down to the Gulf states. And then Wednesday, of course, with rain, temperatures are going to be near or below average. Thursday, here comes that next cold push as we go into next weekend. And now we're at, April 30th, 31st, and now we're going into May 1st. After that, models seem to want to warm things up slightly, but it certainly is going to be the case that much of the time from now to the end of the month, we're going to be below average. The upper air pattern is still not one that is conducive to warmer air in the east. You have the flow split. Here's the energy in the southern stream, this upper low sitting in southern Utah. You have this deep trough off the New England coast. You follow the lines up from to the north of that from James Bay, almost straight south. So that's where our air is coming from, and that upper low takes a while to get out of the way, so that southern stream system can't really lift northeastward until that system to the east of it pulls out, which it does early on Monday and Tuesday. And then here comes that northern energy that's just going to pick it up, lift it up northeastward, and then of course it's got its own identity. And then there's yet another trough, and this brings down that cold shot for the last weekend in April. That's a pretty deep trough for the end of April, beginning of May. And then the GFS at least suggests going into the latter portion of the long range that the pattern wants to flatten out a bit, and a little bit of ridging comes into the east. Let's see if that actually occurs. I have my doubts on this, but we'll see. The models have taken us down this road before. It's we're also at the time of year we're going to start watching to see how the upper air gradually changes going into the next 6 weeks or so. We're going to make a transition over, soon from spring, relatively soon. In another 6 to 8 weeks, we're start to go from that spring to summer type upper air, and it takes some time. The atmosphere does have work to do, but we are going to be very curious to see how this all plays. And by the way, just to show you the unreliability of the models, some of the prior runs actually had a fairly strong upper high building across Greenland and into northeastern Canada. Now it's gone back to more of a trough and not really showing too much blocking in the long range. So again, this falls into the who knows category when it's all said and done. Over to Euroland, where some warm weather has been taking place, and no wonder, because we've got this huge upper high that is sitting right over Western Europe, and that has caused above average temperatures to take hold. This is this afternoon. You can see everybody's pretty much above average, and in some places much above average, translating to temperatures that were reaching into the 70s today across much of France and Germany, even parts of southeastern England, getting up into the low 70s throughout Italy as well. So this is a fairly warm look, certainly, and going forward we are going to see that ridge start to shift a little bit. And there you see it gets flattened out, a deep trough to the northeast of it, and a trough that approaches England, goes north of England toward Iceland and swings on through. So you start to get into more of a southwest flow here, and that brings weather systems in from the Atlantic, one after another, going into the long range. And actually the GFS wants to drop a pretty deep upper low right over England here at the very end of the month. So I'm going to be... Let me bring the temperature anomaly up, because that has me a bit curious. And just as the east is getting, the eastern part of the United States is getting hit with another cold air mass, if the model is correct, at the last weekend of April, and the last days of April and into the very beginning of May, kind of looks like the same thing is happening in westernmost Europe and over England and Ireland. As far as how it translates in terms of the day-to-day weather, here we have as that ridge breaks down, you start to get these waves of moisture coming in off the Atlantic. So it does start bringing in rain next week across the British Isles and into northwestern Europe. And when that upper low drops, I want to see what happens here. Yeah, there's the surface reflection of that upper low sitting near Scotland, and it just kind of meanders there into the North Sea. So it looks like if the models are correct, and they've seemed to be showing this for the last few runs with respect to the latter portion of the forecast period, that a cooler, wetter trend may eventually take over in Europe as we move through next week and going into next weekend. Who wants to know about snow? As far as where the one area that really is of interest is back. You can see how little the 10-day snowfall is now in Europe, because that's done with. Here in the U.S., and all of what you're seeing here over Colorado is front end loaded. So there are some 1 foot plus amounts being forecast in that area where we showed the winter storm warnings. Also some action up into southeastern Canada, where it seems to be snowing forever these days. I'm not, I don't know with respect to what it's showing up for New York State and New England. That's with that cold air blast next weekend. So I don't know how real that is, but the lake effect machine has been working overtime for so long now. If it winds up getting called back to work next weekend when that next shot of cold air comes down, it would not at all surprise me. But I kind of am glad that we're seeing some... Sorry, let me just get these maps moved out of the way. I think I may have lost myself again. Oh, there I am. Okay. So let's bring myself front and center here. Okie dokie. So there's not much weather going on, so I know the crowd tonight is small. Let's see. Patricia Owens, your husband used to go out on Lake Hopatcong at 4 a.m. and I thought that was totally nuts to be so crazy about fishing that you would go out that early. Yeah, I can understand that. I get it. Those are fishermen's hours. You know, we like to catch them a little bit before sunrise. But it's, you know, it is the most relaxing, mind-clearing thing. I will tell you that. When guys are out fishing, I think the reason why we like it is that it's very mind emptying, because we tend to just kind of focus on one thing at a time. So when we're out fishing, that's all we're thinking about. So we're just basically, you know, all we're really doing. This is what we do. Okay, so it's. That's it. And that's all we're thinking about. So at least from the standpoint of what the experience brings to us, it's just the fact that whatever's going on in your life, for the time that you're out there in nature, especially when you go fishing out on a river, in the woods, that's it. It's just you fishing and nothing else. And your problems go away. If only for a few hours, the issues in your life do tend to disappear. So I think that's why we do it. It's very it is mind clearing and extremely relaxing. I'm sorry, Dave Michael, you're not fishing because you're working this weekend. I can understand that. I guess I got very lucky with taking off just in time for this 4-day weekend of sunshine. Anthony Orr, with the weather finally calming down, I have a horse racing question. Which horse has the largest winning margin in the Kentucky Oaks? Was it not Rachel Alexandra back in 2009, where she won by over 20 by 20 lengths? Was that not the longest, the widest margin? I could still hear Tom Durkin's call of that race. It was just amazing. I mean, she just absolutely just put him away in that race. If you've never seen it, Google, go to YouTube and pull up the Kentucky Oaks from 2009. It is remarkable. I got that correct. I actually was a big fan of that horse. I went and saw her at Belmont when she ran in the Mother Goose and won by 20 again. And then I drove up to Saratoga just to see her run in the Woodward Stakes. And it was quite the experience. I guess I was a Rachel Alexandra groupie. I saw her when she was racing as a 2-year-old and early in her 3-year-old year, and just something told me that this was going to be a remarkable horse, and she certainly was. And you know, now she's retired. She's had some foals, and she's got a great life. Let's see. Don't make conclusions, Israel, yet about what the summer is going to be like. We don't know. Let's see what how the pattern evolves before we get there, because just because we're having the weather we're having now doesn't mean that the pattern doesn't flip on a dime by the time we get to the summer months. And Magnet Fishing Adventure TV, great weather in central Maryland. Yeah, you've got it. You know, except for clouds, you may get some patchy clouds to deal with from time to time over the weekend. But except for that, the weather should be fine. You certainly don't have any rain issues to deal with through Monday, so that is a good thing. Okay, folks, you know what? Let's call it a night here. no weather going on and still managed to do a 20-minute video, which speaks to the nature of the fact that I can talk on and on and on. So enjoy your Friday evening. Have a great weekend. I will be doing some live streaming right from the Farmington River, so watch for those. I don't know, exactly when, because they may coincide with whenever we are catching fish. So when my buddies have stuff on the line, I may, and hopefully if I have something on the line, I may do an instant live stream, and you can watch us reel in some trout. At least that's that is the plan according to publication. Thank you, Timothy Veltman. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Gets me a few extra lures. Thanks for hitting Super Chat. That was very, very kind of you. I really appreciate it. All right, folks, have a great evening. And we're going to do a Joe and Joe show tonight, but we may wind up doing it, instead of doing it at the usual 9:15, we may do it a bit earlier, perhaps between 7:30 and 8 o'clock. So if you go to my Facebook page, Meteorologist Joe Cioffi, you can catch the Joe and Joe show. It'll probably be short as well, since, again, we don't have too much happening here. And as far as the Sunday live stream, Israel, I watched for, I'll try and schedule one, but I'm going to really play it loose this weekend. So if there's not too much going on, I may just skip it. But on the other hand, I might just live stream right from the riverbed. So you never know. Have a great weekend, folks. Thanks again, Timothy. Really, that was really kind of you. We'll see you tomorrow.